Mr. President.
Morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
Well, so far so good. The yung mga the things that we plan to talk about with the president of Indonesia, President Joko Widodo, lahat ng issues that we expected to be raised with us, na hindi naman issue, but the subjects that we expected to be raised, we did, pero nalampasan namin yung plano. We started talking about other things besides. We would so we talked about the what we will plan to do in ASEAN, the ASEAN conference coming up in November, and the position that Indonesia will take, the Philippines will take in on different subjects. He raised the subject of Myanmar, and again, the part that ASEAN that we discussed. What do you think ASEAN should do? And we came up with some ideas, and I think these will all be raised in the conferences in November. We actually we the main subject was to be trade, to continue our long-standing relationship. The trade between Indonesia and the Philippines increased by 50% in 21. Yun lamang, there's a trade imbalance really between Indonesia and the Philippines. So I said we should find ways to turn that around. And I brought up the subject of agriculture, again, because that is, in my mind, a very important subject that needs to be discussed. And we talked about the possibility of them supplying us with fertilizer, with urea, of Indonesia increasing its trade also for our energy, because much of our coal comes from Indonesia. And there was a time a few weeks back where they stopped export of coal. Nakiusap tayo sa kanila at sinama naman tayo doon sa listahan na bibigyan nila, mag-export sila ng coal. So that's we talked about then the place of the renewable energies, because coal nga is not seen as the most environmentally friendly fuel. Sabi ko, how do we shift? How does Indonesia plan to shift to renewables? So yun, pinag-usapan din namin yun. But I think the most extensive subject matter was in fact PPP. Because nandito talaga tayo para i-encourage yung PPPs with the Philippine government, but not only the Philippine government. Bukod sa PPP, ay pinag-usapan namin yung mga joint venture ng mga negosyante dito. Pupunta sila sa Pilipinas, ang negosyanteng Pilipino pupunta rito sa Indonesia para makapag-joint venture, but also with the government, the PPPs with the government. We had we had two business meetings during this trip here in Jakarta, and in those meetings, meron ng mga napirmahan na umpisahan pa lang. I mean, MOUs and LOIs are only the beginning to these things, but we are determined that it will not end there. Kuminsan kasi nagpipirmahan ng MOU tapos wala na nangyari. Pipilitin namin na hindi mangyari yung ganun. Sabi ko nga, doon sa mga napirmahan na LOI at saka MOU, pag natapos natin yung kalahati dyan, malaking bagay na yan. So that's something but the talk between myself and President Widodo proceeded so quickly. Umabot na kami doon sa organization ng mga task force at the technical level, which generally you don't get to in a state visit. Usually, pag-uusapan yan, yung mga ministerial level lang muna. Mag-uusap, our group will come and talk. Sabi niya, wag na tayong dumaan dyan. Let's go straight already, let's get something done. Very enthusiastic naman ng mga ministers ni President Widodo na yung mga prospects dito sa atin sa Pilipinas, and marami silang nakikita mga opportunities. So we will pursue that. And so I think I would describe the trip as more productive than we had expected. Um, and last night, suddenly he invited us to see, to go to a mall. Bago nung dinner namin, pinuntahan namin yung mall. Yung pala, yung mall na pinakita sa amin, gobyernong may-ari, at saka ang produktong pinagbibili dun sa loob ng mall, lahat local, lahat MSMEs, lahat maliliit. Pagka masyado nang lumaki, hindi na sila pwede dun sa mall. Palilipat sila dun sa regular na mall. So yun ang idea nila. So sabi ko baka pwede natin gawin sa Pilipinas. We had a very good exchange of ideas. Sabi ko naman sa Pilipinas ganito ginagawa namin. I was describing yung OTOP, yung one town one product. Sabi ko pero maliliit so kailangan turuan. And nag-agree na naman kami. Sabi niya, oo, kailangan nating turuan yung packaging, yung market, kung ano yung hinahanap sa merkado, how do you business plan, yung mga ganong klaseng bagay. Pareho sa atin. Kaya the parallels between the Indonesian experience and the Philippine experience are very evident. So we will build on that. We will build on that. Ang maganda nito, Jakarta, Indonesia, long-standing 73 years na tayong mag-partner ng Indonesia. So meron talagang tayong pundasyon na maganda na we can build on to develop all of this. So last night we had dinner with some of the biggest businessmen here in Indonesia, and again all of them are very enthusiastic. Sabi nila we haven't been able to come into the Philippines properly because nung pinaplano nila, nag-pandemic, kung ano nangyari, and PPPs weren't really being encouraged in the previous years. So sabi ko, nagbago na yan. So come to the Philippines. So they all committed naman many of them are already actually involved in the Philippines. So sabi nila, palalakihin nila yung kanilang involvement, gusto nila mag-expand. But yung translation from the Jakarta experience to the Philippine experience, madali lang eh. Hindi mo masyadong kailangan baguhin. Siyempre, ibabagay natin sa Pilipinas, but again, the experience, we are so close in many ways, geographically, ethnically, culturally. So madali talaga ang interaction namin. So I think that's why it went very well, and that we were as productive, and we advanced the talks very, very quickly. So I think that considering we were here for a day and a half, working for a day and a half, marami rin tayong nagawa. At meron tayong nagawa na hindi natin ini-expect na mangyayari. Wala sa schedule, hindi sabi natin, we are not going to talk about, wala kaming planong pag-usapan to, pero napunta ang usapan doon. So even security arrangements, defense arrangements, yung mga joint na natin sa Indonesia. And then the one thing that I was very interested in was on the delimitation talks between Indonesia and the Philippines. First of all, we had delimitation talks yung pag-establish ng baseline. Kasi tumatawid yung EEZ natin sa Indonesia, kaya nagkagulo ng konti. Pero naayos natin yon. So sinasabi ko, yan ang parang template para doon sa delimitation talk sa continental shelf that we are undergoing now. But also, not only for the issues between Indonesia and the Philippines, pero sabi ko pwede kong gamitin yan. Pwede natin gamitin yan pag iba, kahit na iba yung kausap, na delimitation talks na ganyan. So, as I said, we should show it to the rest of ASEAN as an example that it is something that actually it can be done. it can be done basta't nag-uusap kayo with a bilateral agreement. And so there are we covered pati RCEP na pag-usapan namin. Yung pag-ratify ng Pilipinas sa RCEP, which is going to be very high up on the order of business of the Senate after the budget is passed. So marami more and many subjects were brought up, were spoken about in much more detail than we had expected, and whatever discussions we had progressed really rapidly from the usual pleasantries na yung mga ginagawa pag state visit. Nalampasan namin kaagad yun. Dahil nga, ang experience ng Indonesia at saka ng Pilipinas, makikita mo na talagang there are many parallels. So we will take advantage of that.
You are inclined to present the same strategy to China with regard to settling our dispute in the West Philippine Sea.
Well, I think it is worthwhile to explore, at the very least, because it is one instance that this kind of discussion, we came to a conclusion and we came to a resolution. So we should try it now. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. But at least we have a beginning point. That's what I see. How I see it. Oh.
Ay, sir, investment
Oh,
agreement lang po.
ano?
Sir, investment agreement lang po kung magkano po yung expected natin after the roundtable.
Hindi pa nga tayo umabot sa technical but the areas na nakaplano natin napag-usapan natin. Pero there were other areas na we did not plan to talk about but we ended up talking about.
So wala pang ballpark figure ng how much will you be bringing home to the Philippines versus Indonesia in terms of investments?
Well, we haven't done the sums actually. We haven't put it together yet, but it's going to be quite significant. Yeah.
Are there going to be immediate benefits to the Filipinos? Ito pong mga nasarang deals or at least those agreements that have already been signed?
Some are expansions to what are already the operations that are already ongoing. So mararamdaman ka agad yun. The others are quite long term.
Can you tell us some of those that can be felt immediately, Mr. President?
Well, some of them, especially sa manufacturing, sa transport, palagay ko kaagad yan, meron na tayong magagawa. Pati yung tulong nila sa energy, that is going to be immediate. Yung sa pag-import natin sa kanila, pagbili natin sa kanila ng agricultural commodities, pati nagpatulong ako sa fisheries kasi obsessed ako dito sa Pilipinas, nag-import ng galunggong eh. Hindi ko talaga matanggap yan eh. So so I asked for help because matibay ang fisheries nila. So sabi ko, we can exchange delegations. That I think we can. Those are the things, especially in the agricultural sector, are going to happen in the very short term. All right. Sige, salamat. Thank you.